Yo, YouTube, what's up with your boy? Sports and Fitness Rants. I'm back, guys. Click that like button. Subscribe to my channel. What's up, y'all? Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, man. Got another great video for you guys today, as usual, man. You guys know the deal on this channel. It's all about setting the record straight, stopping the lies, stopping the narratives, stopping them from rewriting history, guys. And in this video, man, I want to talk about a clip that I saw from this dude, Ball Don't Stop, I believe is the name of the channel or the Instagram page. I believe it's called Ball Don't Stop. I could be off on this. The guy who runs that page or channel is his picture is the thumbnail of this video. But I was listening to a clip of this dude talking, and he's out here making excuses, basically talking about what me and AOH had touched on the live the other day on Sunday about these guys, getting injured more often, these guys saying that they need more days of rest, like Aaron Gordon was talking about, and how these guys load manage now. And this guy was making excuses, talking about how Adam Silver needs to do something because of the way the game is being played, the pace of the game. And, that's why these guys are getting hurt all the time now, because the pace of the game and the way the game is played now. I don't understand what he's talking about. And once again, he's making excuses. And I don't think this guy ever played sports, man. And we're going to talk about in this video, man. This guy's not got a clue about what the hell he's talking about, making excuses for these guys always getting injured as because of the game, the way the game is played and the running up and down the court these guys do. I don't know. Whatever. We're going to talk about in this video, guys. And I want to thank you guys, everyone across the world, everyone across the states has been supporting my channel. Once again, guys, I am truly, truly humbled by all support, man. It really means a lot, guys. Like I said, man, all the people in the membership, thank you very much. Like I said, it means a lot. Truly humbling. The real recognize real, man. And you guys know what to do. Turn the volume all the way up. Hit that play button. Remember, these videos are for educational purposes. And let's roll. So, yes, guys, like I said, man, I saw this clip of this guy talking on Instagram a couple of days ago. And like I said, I believe the page is called Ball Don't Stop. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the name of the page. I don't know if this guy's a YouTube channel or not. I know he's on Instagram, and he's got a pretty big Instagram page. But I was listening to a clip of this guy, and he was talking about the Jason Tatum injury that happened against the New York Knicks in the semifinal round. And how, we all know Jason Tatum, tore his ACL or, strained his ACL or whatever it was. And this guy was talking about how Jason Tatum's injury is highlighting a bigger problem in the NBA. And he's talking about how these guys are getting all these, non-contact injuries now. And he's basically saying that the reason for this is because of the way the game is played, right? The three-point shooting, guys running up and down the court, the high pace. He is claiming that that's the reason why these guys are getting hurt so much now. And I laugh at that. Once again, this dude's making an excuse. Are we really trying to sit here and say that the NBA game is harder for these guys today? Are we really trying to sit here and say that the world that we live in is a harsher world? Are we trying to say today that these guys don't have more advantages over the guys in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s? Are we really going to sit here and act this way? Are we going to try to make excuses and blame the pace of the game and that, the way the game is being played, man, that's why these guys are having these non-contact injuries? I don't believe that at all. Now, yes, that might have a slight, something to do with it. That could be one of the factors here. But when I watch the game, and I told you, I haven't really been watching NBA basketball during the regular season consistently in years now. Probably over the last 4 or 5 years, I haven't really been into it like that. But when I watch basketball games, for anyone to say that these guys are running too much, that the pace is really high, they're only saying that because of the amount of shots that are being thrown up. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're running around more or they're exerting themselves to a higher degree than the guys were in the 60s or the 70s, or that somehow, some way, the game that they're playing now is so much different than what was going on back in the day as far as these guys and how much energy they have to exert on the court. I don't understand this, okay? Because when I watch the game, like I said, when I'm watching these games, what do we always see? We see a lot of the three-point chucking. We get all that. But also the contact, the physicality is not in the NBA the way it used to be. So the wear and tear for these guys' bodies is not the same as the wear and tear that these guys used to get banging into each other day in and day out, game after game, right? Leaning on each other, slapping each other, elbowing each other, all this physical nature of basketball. Like I said, a flagrant foul now was a common foul back in them days. So you could really get hurt by some of these fouls. That's why I laugh when Isaiah Thomas cries about Michael Jordan. He'll say, oh, Michael Jordan cried to the NBA. No, there was a lot of people, general managers, other coaches complaining about the Detroit Pistons. because of their dirty play. It wasn't they were playing hard and, oh, how are we going to beat these guys? They're playing so hard and so great. No, these guys were dirty. They were going to get someone hurt. That's what people were complaining about. And they were saying, why do we want to get our superstar players, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan? Why do we want these guys to get hurt? We shouldn't want these guys to get hurt playing that style of NBA basketball. That's not basketball. So once again, expose these guys. That's the facts here. When we talk about the way the game is being played now, like I said, for me, it's three-point line to three-point line most of the time. You'll see guys come down, they chuck up a shot before their team even crosses half court. So how much running are they really doing at certain points in times during the game? They're not even running that much. Like I told you, there's some plays where the guys never even move out of their spots because by the time they turn around to run, the guy already chucked up the shot, they're already coming back down again. Excuse me, guys. So you literally didn't even move. You didn't do much running. I also highlighted the fact that AOH has talked about us and mentioned several times when he watches and streams these OT, the TNT OT angle, when he live streams these games and watches these games, what do you hear AOH often mention and bring up? The fact that there's a lot of downtime that we don't even really see on a regular broadcast. Just downtime, guys lollygagging, standing around. There's a lot of downtime during these games that, like I said, you don't even realize. TV timeouts, official timeouts from the coaches. You got players now milking these injuries, rolling around on the floor for minutes sometimes, right? You got them, just, like I said, just wasting time. We also have the load managing going on in the NBA by the superstar players. They're load managing, just missing and skipping games. So once again, how much wear and tear are you really dealing with when there's no physicality in the game, like not to that degree, right? Guys are not hitting you with these cheap, dirty tactical fouls out there. Like I said, just overall physicality has been taken down, so it's less wear and tear. Once again, these guys have all the advantages on their side. Medicine, training, nutrition, doctors, right? Massage therapists, cryo chambers. They have all these advantages. Sneakers, the training facilities, the courts that they play on, the arenas that they're in, right? They have air conditionings and, essential air and all this stuff that they have, this quality assurance stuff, quality control. Everything is catered to the professional athletes. Guys in the 60s and the 70s were driving or riding around on regular buses, right? They were flying flying commercial flights up until like the 90s, guys. Now these guys are flying private jets. They didn't have these luxuries back in the day. So all of this has to, do with the wear and tear on your body, the stress that's going through your mind and on your body. It's a stressful situation when you're not having all these things catered to you the way they are now. So like I've always mentioned, the guys that are playing basketball today in this era, the professional athletes of today, they have 10 times more advantages over the guys in the past. But this guy from Ball Don't Stop, he's going to make excuses and tell you, oh, it's the pace of the play, man. Adam Silver's got to do something with the way the game is being played. These guys are going to keep getting hurt. Instead of talking about what's really going on, these guys are not training. They're not keeping themselves in shape like that. And I'm not saying Jason Tatum specifically is not keeping himself in shape. That's why he got hurt. It's a freak injury, man. Guys get hurt. This is what happens when you play sports. There's no excuses, man. Once again, let's be real here and understand something. People today are just not as tough and durable as people in the past, guys. That's just the facts, man. Overall, in society, people are not as tough mentally, and they're not as physically tough and durable as guys were back in the day. Not just athletes. I'm just talking about regular, everyday people in general. They were just tougher. They had more mental fortitude. They had to be. The world was harder, guys. This is what I'm saying. You had no choice. You had to be tougher because the world wasn't as comfortable and convenient and as soft as it is now. So people have gotten relaxed, right? They've gotten comfortable. They've gotten soft. Right? And it shows. Look at the way we look out here in society. We look like hell in society. We're all lazy. We're out of shape. Right? People got a bunch of mental problems now. They can't deal with as much as they used to be able to deal with back in the day. Right? You could deal with more. Now people don't want to deal with anything. Any little stress, they fold up. They become a victim, right? They need you to understand and feel some kind of sympathy for them. They want you to accept them the way they are no matter what. Insane, the society that we live in now. And that's the problem for these NBA players, right? It's not to do with the pace of the game and all these guys are running up and down the court, chucking up threes, and they're cutting here and they're cutting there. You're telling me guys weren't cutting in basketball all these years? They weren't cutting, they weren't jumping, they weren't stopping on a dime, they weren't switching directions. Like they were doing all the same things. These guys were playing basketball. Once again, we're trying to make it seem as if guys were not playing basketball back in the day that now they're doing something that they weren't doing back in the day. They weren't jumping and running to the same degree. What? That doesn't make any sense. And like I said, the problem for someone like this guy, Ball Don't Stop, that's saying this nonsense, is the way the NBA is promoted. They promote the NBA as bigger, stronger, faster. How many times do we say this? If you're going to promote the athletes of being better athletes now, stronger athletes, faster, they can run faster, jump higher, they're just better, they're more fundamentally sound, they're more skilled. If you're going to promote that game, then you can't turn around and make excuses for the reason why these guys are getting hurt. You can't say, oh, they're getting hurt because of the way the game is being played. You just say they're bigger, stronger, faster. That's how they promote the game. These guys are more skilled, right? That's why the game is being played this way, because they're more skilled. Guys didn't have skills back in the day, so they couldn't do those things. They weren't hitting pull-up jumpers back in the day. They weren't doing fadeaways, right? They weren't jumping off of one leg or two legs. They weren't no high flyers back in the day. No, they didn't have this stuff, apparently. Only now they have these things. And like I said, to me, you would think that, you would have seen more injuries back in the day. And I know they're talking about non-contact injuries, but you would have thought there would have been more injuries back in the day with the way that these guys were jumping off of the ground and getting hit while they're in the air, right? They're getting hit. They're jumping through physicality, through contact. Now, not so much, right? I mean, look at the way that guys land today. See, this guy, Ball Don't Stop, he won't mention that, right? These guys today can't even land. So what do you see now? They go for a layup, they go for a dunk attempt, whatever it is. All of a sudden, they're more concerned about drawing a foul. They're more concerned about doing all this, throwing their head back in their arms and go, hey! This is what you get now. Instead of trying to make the shot through contact, make the dunk, and land on their feet. Now they have to land all weird because they're throwing their bodies in these weird contortions. So when they land, they're all balanced. And then what do you see from these guys? They actually get hurt more often landing because they don't know how to land. There is an actual art to landing on your feet, guys. Being an athlete, even if you're going to fall down, there's a way to fall. I used to do parkour a lot. I was never an expert parkour guy. I was never, someone that I would say I was awesome at parkour. I was a intermediate parkour enthusiast, right? The basics. But in parkour, they teach you how to fall. There's a certain technique to falling, ladies and gentlemen, especially from height. Right? You're coming from a height. I used to jump off of 2-3 stories and drop down onto my feet and immediately go into a roll. There's a certain way to land. Same thing in athletics. You go up, there's a certain way to land, guys. There's a certain way to fall. These guys don't know how to do these things. They're very awkward. They're stumbling and bumbling all over the place because they're too busy trying to draw a foul. That's all that they're worried about now. That's all you see from these clowns, flopping around like a bunch of fools. That's another reason, another way these guys are getting hurt. And one of the things also that I want to mention that I brought up on the Sunday live show is that these guys today, right, especially athletes in the NBA today, they're not multi-sport athletes like guys were back in the day, right? So I brought up Danny Ainge many times on this channel because Danny Ainge is one of those guys that you'll hear a lot of these weirdos try to knock the 80s and 90s, or they'll say, oh, Michael Jordan played against slow, unathletic white guys. And then they'll show a picture of Michael Jordan being guarded by Danny Ainge, let's say, right? But meanwhile, they don't know that Danny Ainge is one of the greatest athletes to ever play in the NBA. The man was a 3-sport All-American in high school in Oregon, the state of Oregon, guys. If I remember correctly, he was the first multi-sport All-American as a junior in the state's history, guys. He was the first one. Baseball, basketball, and football, guys. And he was a wide receiver, All-American wide receiver, guys. That's athletic, right? We all know he played basketball in the NBA, but he also could have been a Major League Baseball player, guys. I believe he played second base, I want to say, if I remember correctly. So the dude was an all-around athlete, but he's a guy that they bring up as not being athletic because he's white. I'm confused because he went against Michael Jordan, I guess, because he played in the 80s and the 90s and they didn't have athletes. Dude was an amazing athlete. I told you, your favorite player was probably never a 3-sport All-American when they were in high school. Danny Ainge was, like I said, he could have played in the MLB if he wanted to. Probably could have played in the NFL. And we all know he played in the NBA. A lot of these guys today, they're sports specific. They only play basketball as a young age. They don't play multiple sports. I told you, growing up, I played football, basketball, and baseball, guys, all the way through high school. I didn't just play for a couple of years. I played all the way through high school, guys. 3 sports. That's keeping me active. When I tell you guys, I've always been active. I've been into sports and fitness my whole life. This is what I've been doing. My parents kept us active in sports. And even if I wasn't playing sports in school, I was out in the street playing sports. You know what I'm saying? Playing tackle football. You know what I'm saying? Kill the carrier. Playing basketball at the streets, in the court, in the streets, man. All these things, right? Going out and playing stickball. I used to play stickball all the time. So I was always athlete. I told you, I was always into sports. I'm a sports fan. I love sports, man. It don't matter if I'm at a barbecue and they got a volleyball net up. I'm going to jump out there and do some volleyball, man. It don't matter what's going on. I'm going to get out there. I don't care if it's badminton. I'm out there doing it, man. If they're playing it, man, I'm going to get out there and play, man. And I'm going to compete, and I'm going to try to win. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about for someone like me. These guys today, they only are really playing basketball their whole lives. They're not playing multiple sports. So when you play multiple sports, it helps your body develop in a way because every sport is different in a little bit of ways, right? Basketball, you do certain movements over and over again that you don't necessarily do in another sport. So like baseball, for example, you're not jumping often in baseball as you are in basketball. You're always jumping in basketball. You're constantly jumping. In baseball, guys are not jumping that often. So different movement patterns, right? In basketball, you're not throwing and using your arm as much. You're not throwing. In baseball, you're constantly throwing the baseball, right? Swinging a bat, the rotation to swing a bat. All these are different things. That's why you remember Michael Jordan talking about how to get in basketball shape. Because even though he's playing a sport at a high level, he's still a professional athlete, baseball shape and basketball shape are completely different, guys. To be able to run up and down a basketball court is a lot more taxing than you having to run to first base, right? Or run to second base, right? It's a quick sprint. Same thing with, with football. Think about football. Football is like one of those things where it's full go, right? The ball snaps, you're going 100%. Every play is a max effort play. That's why football is so taxing on you, because every snap is a max 100% effort for however long the play lasts. The play can last 2 seconds. The play can last 30 seconds, right? And you go on max effort as hard as you can every single snap. You're using muscles, and like I said, you're getting pushed backwards, and you're getting your body twisted around, and you're getting slammed down, and sometimes you're getting pushed against your will. You're getting hit. You're running into people. It's a completely different thing, right? Hockey, you're using different muscles. You're on skates on ice. You're sliding around. It's just a different game. So every sport is different in and of itself as far as what you need to do to be good or great in that sport, the movement patterns that you need in these sports. And we talk about basketball. And I told you, these guys today are just playing basketball. They start from a young age, 7, 8 years old. They're playing AAU, or they're playing in whatever league they're playing in. And all they're focused on is basketball. These kids are playing basketball. This camp, they're playing in that league. They're playing in this league. They're playing 3, 4, 5 damn leagues of basketball. But they're not doing anything else. They're not running track. Like I said, they're not playing soccer. They're not playing football. They're not playing baseball. They're not playing any other sport, hockey, or any other sports out there. They're not playing these sports. They're just sticking to basketball, focusing on basketball, and working on everything that they need for the fundamentals, the skills of basketball. But meanwhile, they're not developing the way that they could, or the way that they should, if they played multiple sports and did multiple things. And that would help you develop as a teenager, as a young person, a teenager, so that you can get to a certain point in your life and you have that development from all those different sports that you played, skills that you learned, right? And strength that you developed in different areas. These guys today, they're not like that now. They're focused on one sport and one sport only, which I can tell, to me, I remember back in the day, we used to focus on multiple sports. Multiple sports. You wanted to play multiple sports as an athlete, because to me, you could really only call yourself an athlete if you played multiple sports. It's like, with Bo Jackson, the guys like Deion Sanders, these guys that were playing multiple sports at a high level. Like, then you think of like great athletes, you think about people that can do multiple things. You think about Wilt Chamberlain, right? He can do multiple things, multiple sports, right? You think about someone like Jim Thorpe, some of the great athletes, they can do multiple things, multiple sports, guys. That's what makes you athletic. Because just because you're athletic to play basketball doesn't necessarily mean that you would be good at baseball or at football, or you have the toughness to play football, or you have the accuracy or the coordination for baseball. It's different, right? I told you, a lot of these guys are in the NBA because they're tall. That's it. That's the only reason why they're in the NBA, because they're tall, man. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean they have the skills, right, that they've developed over the years. They're just tall. But I said these guys never developed. And also, we all know, guys do not train the way that they're supposed to be training. They're not coming into the seasons prepared. These guys don't take care of their bodies in the off season. Everything's a joke to them now. They're too busy doing TikTok dances, right? They're too busy doing these weird handshakes. They're too busy out there on the scene, right? That's all it is for these people. They're too busy being celebrities. And then a lot of these guys are not putting the work in to do the training that they need to do to be prepared for the seasons. It's a lost art. And I told you, a lot of these trainers, they're fake, man. They're not real. So this guy, Ball Don't Stop, is making excuses for the players today, saying that Adam Silver needs to do something about the pace of the game and the way the game is being played. Yeah, we talked about the way the game is being played, but as far as these guys having non-contact injuries and getting hurt more often, to me, like I said, it's a combination of things. It ain't just have to do with the game. Oh, these guys are running all over the place. They're stopping on the dime here. They're cutting there. They're doing this. They've been doing that in the NBA. Like I said, I watch a lot of these games. These guys ain't running nowhere. They're not going anywhere. The game used to be played from baseline to baseline. I've talked about this, guys. From baseline to baseline because it was an inside-out game. So the big man had to go from one block all the way down to the other block, and he had to try to beat his man or get position on the block against his man. So that's a sprint down there. And now you're trying to get position so that they can feed you the ball and then maybe get a double team and then you can kick it out or you can go to work in the post, right? That's how the game was played, baseline to baseline. Guys getting up and down the court. Now, I tell you, he'll be from three-point line to three-point line. Sometimes these guys aren't even moving. You got guys chucking up shots from half court. And there's no one under the rim to rebound. So guys are getting these easy rebounds. There's no banging down low or hustling for rebounds. And I said, guys are just getting hurt because guys are weak. They're not as tough as they were back in the day. That's the facts. They're not as durable. They're not as gritty. They don't have the pain threshold of guys back in the day. They're mentally weaker. They're not taking care of themselves the way they should be. Like I said, they're just not as tough. You know, if we look at guys back in the day and we say, well, they didn't really work out or train like that back in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s by and large, right? A lot of those guys did not train or exercise, lift weights, things of that nature. But I told you, these guys grew up playing multiple sports, so they were just tougher and stronger from the development of those muscles. I also talked on the Sunday show about how lives were harder back in the day. Life was just harder. You had to use your muscles more often back. Guys, no one uses muscles today. People are soft. Look at them. Their bodies are soft. We're lazy now. So, like I told you, back in the day, your father, your grandfather, maybe you had a walk to work or walk to school. When you were a kid, you rode your bike everywhere. Now kids get driven everywhere. Their parents pick them up. They drop them off. Right back in the day, we had to ride our bikes everywhere. I rode my bike everywhere that I could. I used to ride my bike to the mall. Or we would take buses, right? You would take public transportation. But you would ride your bike a lot, man. Now kids don't ride bikes like that. You know, you would just climb trees. I told you, I used to climb trees a lot at the park or, you know, out in the woods somewhere. I remember when we first moved up out of the city, up to like, you know, where I live, where my parents live now, I had never seen that many trees before. I was like, what the hell? It was like a jungle to me, but it was a woods. But I thought it was a jungle. I had never seen a deer before, right? The craziest thing that I remember seeing in Inwood Park or Central Park when I was young, and my parents would, you know, we'd be at the park, and it was like a black squirrel. You would see like those black squirrels, man. And like, that was like the craziest thing I ever saw. I had never seen raccoons. I had never seen no, you know, skunks, deer. I ain't seen none of this stuff. Foxes, coyotes. I ain't seen none of this stuff before. And now I'm out in the woods and I'm climbing trees, man. This is what we did out there. You climb trees, man. Didn't have a cell phone or iPads or none of this stuff. We were outside climbing trees. So this is how you work and use your muscles. As a child, climbing trees is very hard. You have to use muscles and strength. Riding your bike requires strength, stamina, right? That's a workout right there, but you're just riding your bike, having fun with your friends. Kids don't do that anymore. So like I said, all these years, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, you're climbing trees, you're climbing monkey bars, you're playing dodgeball. Like I said, you're walking to school. Like I said, you're riding your bike everywhere. You know, you're falling down, scraping your knees. These are the things that are happening out there because we're always out using our muscles, using our lungs, using our heart as a young age, developing. That's how you become tough. That's how life was. So life was harder. So these grown men were more durable. They were tougher because their lives were tougher. They had to work, you know, manual labor jobs, a lot of these guys. Remember we hear these guys, oh, they're plumbers and taxi cab drivers. These guys work side jobs. They were just tougher. They had to deal with more because life required that. Now, life doesn't require that, so these guys are softer, weaker, more frail. Their bodies break down. Their feelings are more sensitive. They're mentally weak. They're not as tough. They don't have the pain threshold of guys back in the day. They don't have the mental fortitude. They just don't have the heart. And these guys are getting injured more often because these guys are not taking care of themselves. They would say that they're lollygagging on social media, playing around in the off season, gaining weight, not keeping themselves in shape. And like I said, when they are training, they're not training the right way. They're doing these fluff routines that ain't doing nothing for them. And they haven't been playing multiple sports their whole lives. You guys know the deal, man. Ball don't stop. I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You're making excuses, man. And I don't think this guy ever played basketball before in his life. But these are the facts. Yes, the way the game is played might have a little bit to do with some of these guys and the injuries. But that's not the key. or not, the main factor. There's many other factors to me that have been more prevalent or more important into reason why these guys are getting hurt so much so often. Also, a lot of times that these guys, like I said, the Jason Tatum injuries are legit injury, but some of these other guys, they don't have legit injuries. Like I said, they're load managing, and they're load managing so much that they had to come up with guidelines for the load managing. You guys know the deal, man. These are the facts. I'll catch you guys on the next one.